Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
This is Ed Cohen. I'm in San Diego, California, and you're on Global TV Talk Show, a unit of globalbusinessnews.net, which has been around since '03. Google Analytics has measured activity on our site since '03. They say 1.2 million audience page views. But more recently, Global TV Network, which is what this is, has started. They started April 2020, and since then, according to Google Analytics, there's been about 110,000 audience page views from 100 countries. And welcome to our special guest from Cape Town, South Africa today, Lynn Mackenzie. Hello.
Hello, Ed. How are you doing?
Good, good. I've been anticipating this for a long time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so
Likewise.
thanks for doing this.
Oh, of course. No, I was so honored. I was so honored to be asked to be on. So I am very, very, very happy to be here. Thanks again.
I know that you're a lawyer and that
Yeah.
you spent a lot of time in Los Angeles, right?
I did. I was. I had the privilege of being in LA for a few years and studied there, lived there, started my career there. So yes, it was such a wonderful experience, and I feel very blessed that I was able to have that opportunity. And I've been back home in South Africa now for over 3.5 years. So always knew I wanted to come home. You know, home is home always. So as much as I loved being in LA and established a good life there, I just always knew I wanted to come back and give back to my own community. So happy
Well,
to be
good.
home.
That's good. Good. So are you heavily involved in corporate relocations? Now, I know because of the pandemic, everything has really just gone nuts.
Yes, it's gone actually quite crazy. So yes, I was working with a destination service provider recently, and I was the immigration lead and legal compliance manager for the company. Such an amazing experience. It was my first initial corporate side work, you know, because the beginning of my career has been in nonprofit, human rights law, and mostly in the private law sector. So of course I made the crossover just coming back to South Africa and was introduced to this amazing global immigration and mobility industry. And so yes, it's been quite tough. I mean, just in terms of people not being able to come to the continent. But you know, it also gave me a lot of insight into what I really wanted to continue to do with my career and kind of take it to the next level. And I think that's done a lot of things for COVID, well, for people, you know, during this COVID time. You know, it's been a time of reflection. And so I just wanted to take the 18 years in the working world and 13 years in private and public law work to start my own consultancy. So I recently started my own consultancy literally a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you so much. And so it is called the AHA Law Group, and it's abbreviated to mean the act of helping another. And what it really is it's about consolidating all my years of experience, both in the public and private law sector, areas that I'm so passionate about, and can still continue doing. And so the AHA Law Group was born. We really seek to serve others, and we are huge advocates for law empowerment. And that really just means that we want people to be really a part of the legal process. Ed, I don't know if you know, but lawyers get a bad rap. You know, there's always this preconceived negative notion that we're all just bloodsuckers and all sorts of negative connotations. But you know, I really want to change that. And I've done that through my career, where people say to me, you don't act like a lawyer, you don't dress like a lawyer, you don't, you know, and then I say, when did we define who these, you know, professions should be and what a doctor should look like, you know? So I try to change the narrative. You know, I'm quite a dynamic, passionate person. As you can see, I talk with my hands and I'm kind of all over the place, but it's because I'm really passionate about what I do. And so that's what I want to infiltrate into my consultancy. I want to help other people to really understand the law, bring the law to light for them, so that they can also assert their own rights, represent their own interests. Because what I've been finding, Ed, is that a lot of people just don't even know their basic human rights. For example, in South Africa, 45% don't even know their basic human rights.
So let me just also jump in here for a sec.
Yeah, of course.
I love the name AHA, because it's like a wake-up call, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, because that is my motivation, shedding light on the law, because everyone deserves to have their aha moment. It's amazing when the lights go on, Ed, how people feel so confident. They feel like they can take over the world. They feel that they can really assert their own selves and what they need to do and get their
I have
goals.
to say that I've had that more than once, and it's like a God-given thing. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's transformative, and once you understand what you have, and yeah, I mean, things are so clear that before were opaque.
Yep.
And now, like, whoa, and you know, forget about the imposter syndrome, you know,
Yeah.
and say, hey, it's for me. I'm going to follow on this idea.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's been such an amazing transition. You know, I'm starting to reconnect, rebuild, really consolidate all of the pillars of practice. So I've really kind of narrowed it down to contracts and to regulatory compliance and migration law. And, you know, within those, I just want to work with companies all over the world, but also to showcase Africa, which the mobility industry actually has helped me do, because as my prior position with the destination service provider, my role was really to manage African immigration and the corporate immigration space. So I had to create a supply chain and you know, expand our service offerings and locations. So I got to meet the most amazing immigration practitioners and lawyers on this continent, the most brilliant minds you will ever meet in your life. And I just have been feeling that I want to promote Africa a lot more. It's a close, obviously, my homeland, but I also think just in a global mobility perspective, it's not showcased enough. I feel like sometimes we're a little forgotten. And so I definitely feel like I'm the poster child for that. And so, you know, I've joined so many amazing global mobility associations and nonprofits that have just started as well. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're called Paradigm.
I'm very familiar. In fact, I just had a call this morning with Marco in Italy.
Oh, yeah. Marco is amazing. Talk about another brilliant legal mind. So yes, so it has been such an honor that they wanted me on board. I mean, considering that I've been moving sort of away from the mobility industry, sort of, but they still wanted to utilize some of my expertise, particularly in the human rights side of things. So they have put me into the pillar of the Give advocates. So just helping members give back finding projects, organizations all over the world where we can really add value and use our resources and our platforms to do good. I mean, I feel
Now,
like now it's
now,
awesome.
I want to invite you, and I want you to speak as soon as possible with Marco, but he is going to be my guest this coming Monday
Oh,
on
fun.
July 12th on a broadcast and it will start at 5 p.m. your time, Central European time.
Okay.
All right, my 8 a.m. All right, and it was originally going to be just about him, and then on the call we just had a half hour ago, setting it up for Monday.
Yeah.
I said, well, why don't you invite others from Paradigm to come in and join us? He says, boy, that's a good idea because he wants to encourage new young members to speak up. And so I said, well, use Global TV Talk Show as a part of your springboard. And
Yes,
so why don't you send him a quick message as soon as
I
possible
will do
saying
that.
you and I just had this and I mentioned it to you.
Oh, I will. I definitely will do that. Oh, that's amazing. Yes, it is such an amazing initiative. I think what I like about it is the promotion, not necessarily from adding young professionals into the mix and giving them a voice as well. But I love the idea of inclusivity and diversity, and really getting everybody a chance to really show their stuff, their expertise, their passions. We have a lot of fun too, which I think is always missing in a lot of these organizations. So we have a lot of fun. We connect. We have, really great events coming up. We actually do have a give event coming up in a few weeks. We just had our first gather event because Paradigm has the three pillars of grow, gather, and give. So we each are doing our little showcase to show people just what we're all about. And we would love to have more and more members. And it's not just for lawyers or practitioners it is for anybody that is passionate about the area. We want to help, especially the younger ones, the ones that really do need the guidance and the help. I'm a mentor myself. I mentor young law graduates, and it doesn't take any effort, 5, 10, 15 minutes out of your day sometimes to just share your experience with a new graduate, a new person who wants to get into your field. So, and it's fun. It's great.
I hope to see you on Monday, but so I'll leave that to you and Marco.
I
But
will.
and others are invited too. I sent it to him, and he can do whatever he wants. But so use it to announce your upcoming events. We have a big audience. So
Yeah.
let's talk about you. And
Yeah.
it says here that you grew up during the apartheid era.
Yeah.
And so I, from here in California, you see the news and it looked dangerous, scary. And that's from here. So I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes.
Absolutely. So I grew up during the 80s, and that was really where a lot of the political turmoil kind of came to a head. 1986 in particular was the uprising. And so it was a lot of protests. My family was quite politically active. My uncles worked for sort of the underground associations of the African National Congress, when we're fighting for the freedom of all Black Africans, South Africans, and people of color here. And it was a really tumultuous time. I actually do remember it. I mean, for example, I was five years old, and there were protests happening because the government decided that, Black students weren't allowed to learn particular subjects in school. So whether it be maths and science, they had to learn home economics and domestic work because that in their mind was all that people of color could aspire to be. And so students were were uprising, and we would have these military soldiers that would come into the streets, and they would use gas, and they used something even called purple rain, which is they used the hoses, so the water would come up, but the water would have a dye, a purple dye. And so once the protesters had scattered, the police would patrol and look for the purple glow from people's bodies, because that would show that they were at that protest earlier, and then they would arrest them. So I remember, students, we lived quite close to a university, and we had to hide students. Our house was raided by the police all the time. And my grandfather actually worked very close with Desmond Tutu, because he was a bishop in the Diocese of Cape Town. And so, I was right in the middle of that at 5, 6, 7 years old. And at the time, it was in transition. There was a lot of violence because desegregation was starting to unfold. So much so that when about 1987, there were allowances made for Blacks and Coloreds and people of other color and races were allowed to move into white neighborhoods. So, and our family happened to be one of those test groups. So we moved to a predominantly white neighborhood in 1987. And let me tell you, Ed, that was quite an experience.
Was that in Cape Town?
Yes, that was in Cape Town. And I struggled to get into school, actually, because a lot of schools weren't accepting colored girls and colored boys into their schools. And it wasn't, they wouldn't blatantly say so, but they would say things like, you wouldn't feel comfortable here. Maybe there's a better school for you somewhere else. But, the universe was kind to me, because I ended up in a wonderful school that had actually been desegregated for quite a long time due to the fact that they were a private institution. So we were introduced to the principal there. It's called Springfield Convent. And I went there for 12 years and was very happy. Of course, the transition was difficult. There was a lot of racial divide, especially with the desegregation and having multiple cultures in schools and in work and all of that. So what I took from that experience, though I wouldn't change that, is that I got to experience both the ugly side of the law and the oppression and politics of apartheid and the separateness and the ugliness that comes with that. But I also got to experience the freedom of it. I got to experience the mountaintop, if you will, of democracy in 1994. I got to experience my grandfather in his 60s and my brother, who's 19, get to vote for the first time. Quite an experience, and really is what I attest and what molded me to pursue my career in the law profession, particularly in social justice and human rights law.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a timely announcement.
Hi, I'm Sergei Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we are researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Delzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
So what was the transition? What was the pathway for you to get into LA?
So as I mentioned, my grandfather was was the suffragan bishop in the Anglican diocese here in Cape Town and worked with Desmond Tutu. And in South Africa at 65, you are required to retire, but he wasn't ready for that. So he was invited by the Diocese of Los Angeles to be a bishop in residence in Glendale. And so I was actually in my first year of law school at the University of Cape Town. And my grandpa said to me, "Oh, we're moving to LA. Would you like to go?" And I'd been to LA before. I went when I was 17. That was my first time there. So I loved it. It's very similar to Cape Town. We have the beaches, the mountains, and the warm weather, and the laid back kind of quality of life. And so I didn't think it would be too bad to live in LA for a while. So I transferred over there with my grandparents.
Oh, that's great. So what college did you get into?
So initially I actually had to start from the beginning because none of my credits would transfer. So I ended up going to California State University Northridge. So I'm an alumni of the Matador. Absolutely loved going to that school. And then I went to the University of West Los Angeles School of Law. Has 2 campuses, one in Chatsworth and in LA. At least I think they still do. Loved that it was so small and intimate and really had great professors there. And yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
Oh, good for you. Well, I lived in West LA when I relocated. I lived in Beverly Hills and right on Beverly Boulevard near the corner of Little Santa Monica.
Okay, yes, all the way down.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful area, of course. But at that time, there was an apartment community. It's not there anymore. Now there's multi-million-dollar condos there. But in that block, when I relocated from Boston to LA, that's where I
Wow.
landed. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So I, at the time, was publishing a print magazine series called US Bound Professional Relocation Guides. And we had New York bound, Philadelphia bound, Chicago bound, Washington bound, Florida bound, Texas bound, all right, and Arizona bound and California bound, the big one. And so I moved to LA to run the company from there.
Nice.
Yeah, and so I was able to get around and meet a lot of people almost right away, and learned a lot. You know, it was a
Yeah.
life-changing experience. So I get the idea of a major move,
Yeah.
but I would think that it would be both liberating and overwhelming to go from Cape Town to West LA and San Fernando Valley. So,
Yes.
but
Yes.
you know, you have a lot of company there. There's a lot of immigrants, a lot of people from a rainbow
Yes.
of countries and colors.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
what I did like about that
yeah, yeah.
that area.
LA
It's a
is
melting pot.
fabulous. You know,
Yeah, it's
from a
great.
positive point of view, Metro LA is a terrific place.
But you're in San Diego right now, aren't you,
I
Ed?
I moved to San Diego in '93.
Okay.
All right, and I've been in San Diego ever since. Yeah,
Love San Diego.
yeah,
Love, love, love. I really miss it. It's such a beautiful place. I used to
yeah.
go to
It's good.
Comic-Con.
Yeah, well, it's right down the street. I live in Seaport Village,
Oh,
which is
nice. Okay.
next. It's right next door to the convention center.
Center. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the
Okay.
past up until a few months ago, this has been a ghost town because of the pandemic. There's been
Yes.
no business, no movement, nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, it's been awful. But
Oh.
since about May 1, there's been an explosion of business. And
Oh.
oh no, it's really economic boom going on. Um, and the convention center is opening up for conventions. There's live meetings coming in here in San Diego beginning in October and November.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Comic-Con will be a shortened version will be back in November.
Wow. Oh, that was such a fun experience. I even took my mom there when she
Yeah,
visited me from South Africa. She
yeah,
was like, "Why are there people walking around in costumes in the street?"
I know, and it's all well Hollywood, you know. Right.
Yes, yes, it's definitely the glam. Definitely the glam. So everything from a COVID perspective is safe there. Ed?
Well, I've had and Joanne has had both Moderna shots back in February, and it's everything's worked. We've never gotten sick, God willing, it continues. You know,
Yeah.
and millions of people in California, millions have had the vaccines, and
Wow,
so
that's fantastic.
and so it went from one of the highest rates of disease to the highest rates of no disease.
Oh,
It's like a sea change. I mean,
yeah,
it's fabulous. So everything is wide open,
yeah,
and it's because the vaccines work.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, our rollout has been quite slow.
Right.
So we right now they're helping the 50s and up. And then hopefully our group will be next. I said to my friends, the joy of growing older is that I now get to be first in line for some of these things. I just turned 40 this year. So I was just like, all right, I
So
get the vaccine
yeah.
first.
So I do whatever you can to get people vaccinated. I don't know why it's taken so long. These vaccines
Yeah,
have been available for months, and they work. And um, there's some people with some pre-existing conditions that probably shouldn't get the vaccine, but then they can get the antibody
Right.
medicine, right? Which is the
Yes.
same kind of thing, because the
Yes.
vaccines inject antibodies into your body.
Yes.
All right, so it starts creating sort of like a wall of protection
Right.
within
Right.
your cells.
Within
Okay,
yourself.
all
Yeah.
right, and then over time, it starts working through your system, and that's what builds up your immune system. Because if you don't have a good immune system, you're going to be at risk, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
But if you have a good immune system and you treat yourself right,
Yeah.
the vaccine becomes like a miracle, and it
Yeah.
becomes a wall.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's good to hear.
yeah, so
I was a little skeptical myself, but
if you're going to be an advocate for stuff, get your government to get those vaccines out to everybody. Forget about the age groups. Just get them out
yes,
to everybody.
yes, that's what I was
Because
thinking
a
too.
month, 30, 60 days later after the inoculations, it'll go away.
Yeah.
It won't go away. It'll not have anywhere to go, and so it'll go away, right?
Right.
Because
Because
people won't get infected.
and that's such a good point, Ed, because that unfortunately, because of this delay and the slowing of the rollout, our numbers have just skyrocketed.
I
So
know.
now
I read all about it.
yeah, our numbers are high. We are now on an adjusted level 4 lockdown. So that means that restaurants cannot have sit-ins. We
Right.
are not allowed to buy alcohol. So industries, people have lost jobs. It's been for like 2 weeks now. The president's supposed to speak on Sunday, but with these numbers, we don't know. We highly doubt he's going to change the level
Well, you
to
can't
down.
because it's going to cost more. So, look, what's happened here with the economy, with the new president Biden, and the new energy connected with getting rid of the other guy, that
Same again?
I can't remember. So something to do with a card game, but so. It's created an atmosphere of positivity. All right,
Yeah.
it's like the end of apartheid and the release of Mandela. I mean, it's like a whoosh of power and goodwill and like fireworks of goodwill.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happened here with the new administration and the vaccine rollout fast, and they're, I mean, the U.S. has excess vaccines, and they've made a plan anyway to get them out to the rest of the world and
Yeah.
get everybody vaccinated right away, because it's a mental health issue of people not being able to do what they want to do,
Yes, it is.
and then that impacts business, that impacts the economy, that impacts governments not being able to do what they can because there's no money.
Yep.
I mean, it's a vicious cycle downward.
Cycle.
So
Absolutely.
I'm not advocating anything other than goodwill. So people must get that vaccination or the reasonable facsimile. They need to they need to be protected because the virus is out there everywhere, and it's in the air, and so you just walk around breathing it, which is why the lockdowns. They don't want people getting infected because it's out there.
Yeah. No,
Right.
absolutely. I really am in hopes that we'll get these vaccines done as soon as possible. I mean, they should just even have people doing walk-ins that don't need to wait for registration or your time to come up. Just if you can go.
Or just go in like a big Red Cross caravan, go down through neighborhoods with a
that's a good idea.
like a loudspeaker.
Like a loudspeaker, like the ice cream man.
Come and get it, and then give ice cream out after you get the shot.
I like that idea. I like that idea, and I'll definitely put that forth to my political
Yes,
constituents.
yes,
Let's
and
let's
you own
get
it.
that
I don't
going.
want, and you can own it. I'll franchise it to you.
See, there's always opportunities, and always great opportunities.
So, tell me about what you're going to be doing the day after the lockdown ends.
The day after the lockdown ends, I will probably go to the gym because the gym is my time of reflection, de-stressing. It's what helps my mental health. And when they closed the gyms, my heart just sank. I train at home. Luckily, from a year ago when we were on level 5 lockdown, we weren't allowed to go outside at all. I was able to get weights and things like that for my house. But yeah, now for the last 2 weeks, I've been training at home, but at least we're allowed to, go outside. So I've been running, but I miss the gym. I miss the vibe. I miss, hanging out with my gym people. So that's what I'll be doing on Monday morning if we are allowed to.
So, my primary business prior to the pandemic was producing live training conferences having to do with talent mobility. And most of them were in the US, but we also did London and Paris and Switzerland and Germany, Italy, Mexico and Brazil and Panama, but never did Africa and Middle East or Asia. And then all of this stopped. And so my business just crashed, Our last meetings were in February 25 in New York and February 27 in Washington, D.C.
Mhm.
And they were both very well attended. And then I took a long plane ride back to the coast here. And I think I was the only one on the plane other than the pilot and the stewardess. But so I got good service. But
Oh, there you go.
but the day after that, everything shut down for sure. And then that's when I began looking at this little green light on the computer and
Like
saying,
all of us,
you want to talk to me about something? and then I learned, well, I better get my act together here because the whole world is going to think I'm an idiot. So I learned how to be Mr. Cool.
There you go. There you go. And
So
then the show was born, right?
and tell me about yourself.
Tell me about-
And then I find A-type personalities like you, and my job gets really easy.
Right? I love it.
Right. That's right. So what do you want to talk about?
But yeah, I mean, I really just am in hopes that we all can get to at least a new form of normalcy sometime soon. I really miss the in-person connection. As you can tell, I love people and I love being in person to people. I miss networking events. I miss going to conferences and trainings and things like that in person. There's just as much as, we'll probably proceed with online aspects for our businesses. And things will change in terms of mobility, where people won't be seconded for long periods of time or going for short business trips anymore, because now they're going to be on Zoom and they can be on Teams, because then they don't have to get on a flight, and it's also cost effective for a lot of businesses. But I really hope that all of that in-person connection is not lost, because that would really hurt my heart. So I'm really, hopeful that, within Africa, we're a little bit more lucky, I think, because a lot of expats really, with the businesses and the industries, require, people to be here physically, for projects and things. So we're lucky in that manner that maybe we will still continue to be maintained with the amount of inbound work. And I've spoken a lot to my other partners on the continent, and they've told me that business is actually doing well in a lot of these African nations, and we're having a lot of multinational and corporations that are coming in. I mean, we are lucky enough to have Amazon coming to Cape Town, headquartered here soon. So there's just so much opportunity here, and I'm just so excited to see that, after all of this transition, that maybe particularly on this continent, we're going to have a lot more movers and shakers coming onto the continent for their businesses. So it's an exciting time, actually. So I'm hoping to do more local and regional traveling.
The continent of Africa is immense. It is huge.
It's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge.
So
yes, and I'm so glad you said continent, Ed, because a lot of people still think Africa's a country.
I mean, it's a long trip. How long does it take to drive when you can? How long does it take to drive Cape Town to Johannesburg?
15 hours.
15 hours. Wow.
About 15 hours.
That's about 1,000 miles?
Yeah, give or take. Like 700. I'm now back into kilometers now, hey? So about 700 kilometers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
so
right.
So it's quite far. We used to take those trips when I was a kid. A lot of my family lives up in Johannesburg, so we used to get in our little van and take road trips up there. But I'm telling you, coming home, it's just been so impeccable at the beauty of this country, of this continent. I'm still in awe when I go running or something and I'm in the mountains, and it's just so stellar and beautiful. And have you ever been to Africa, Ed?
No, I would love to do that.
Well, you definitely need to come and see us sooner rather than later. I think you would absolutely love it. It's really amazing place, and I'm encouraging everybody, especially all my friends from LA. I already have a list. I have a waiting list, if you can believe it.
So, you're going to have to go into business as a temp housing provider.
I probably should. I probably should start my own little accommodation business on the side.
Right.
Definitely.
So stay with Lynn, sort of. So let me ask you about, as we come to a close here, which is not something that I want to do. So, but we should, because a lot of our audience is probably, maybe they're still with us, but
who knows?
Hello, are you there?
Really about us, Ed.
I know. Yeah, okay. So I welcome you to come back periodically, and maybe even this Monday with Marco. And let's see what we could build together.
That sounds wonderful, Ed. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure and so much fun. And
So tell me what your website is. Let everybody know what your website is.
Well, as we are a couple weeks old, the website is still in progress, but my email is the AHA Law Group at outlook.com.
AHA
Law Group at outlook.com.
Everybody get that? There she is. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ed. Take care. Be safe.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.